So, what if the afterlife isn't some grand courtroom? What if instead it's just a mirror? A mirror showing us exactly who we became through love or through fear? Think about that for a second. What if death isn't the moment we're finally punished, but literally just the moment we finally stop hiding?
Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a truly profound, multi-layered philosophical dialogue from Imaginary Talks called Darius J. Wright on Death, Love, and Life Review. Now, we're not just going to talk about what happens after we die. No, this is a deep, challenging look at how we are choosing to live right now, today. We're going to be exploring insights from near-death experiencers, mystics, psychologists, and even historical figures, all to answer one massive question. If love is the final truth, why on earth do we live as if fear is stronger? Let's jump right into Section 1, The Mirror of Death. Is the life review about judgment, love, or self-recognition? Statistically speaking, a huge percentage of near-death experiencers talk about going through this incredible panoramic life review. Researchers like Raymond Moody and experiencers like Anita Moorjani, they tell us that this review isn't some legal trial. It's actually this incredibly intimate moment of absolute clarity, completely bathed in perfect love. But Darius J. Wright takes this a step further with a pretty startling claim. He says, the greatest pain is the love you withheld, not punishment, recognition. So the light doesn't sit there with a clipboard saying, well, you failed here and you messed up here. Instead, you judge yourself in the presence of unconditional love. The real pain? It comes from recognizing exactly where you chose pride over patience and seeing the massive ripple effects of the moments you just closed your heart. You know, this actually perfectly aligns with author C.S. Lewis and near-death experiencer Howard Storm. Lewis defines hell not as some fiery torture chamber run by an angry tyrant. He describes it as the soul's terrible refusal of joy and its total insistence on keeping the false self. Judgment is simply the death of illusion. It's that moment we finally surrender all those little disguises we use here on Earth. You know, like when we dress up our selfishness and call it realism, or we disguise our cowardice as caution. Which naturally brings us inward to Section 2, the fear of love. Why do people fear love even more than death? Seriously, if love is the ultimate truth, the thing we all crave the most, why do we build these thick, heavy walls against it? Well, Carl Jung offers a really striking answer. He says the ego prefers control to surrender. The encounter with love can feel like death to the ego. Let's be totally honest here. The ego is like a fantastic middle manager for our daily fears, our petty grudges, and our ambitions. But love? Love demands total honesty. As regression hypnotherapist Dolores Cannon pointed out, love exposes the whole person. It literally terrifies the ego, because to be fully loved, you have to be fully seen. And that forces the false self to die. And this ties right into researcher Brené Brown's absolutely crucial distinction between shame and guilt. Shame says, I am bad. That makes us hide, right? We reject ourselves entirely. Guilt, on the other hand, says, I did something bad, which actually guides us toward repair and taking responsibility. Shame is essentially the ultimate false wall between our soul and God. It tricks us into thinking that if we are truly seen, we're going to be rejected. And so we run from the exact love that could actually heal us. Moving on to Section 3, the courage to protect. Is love a weakness, or is it the highest form of courage? There's this super common misconception that love just means passive surrender. You know, staying silent in the face of cruelty, or just rolling over when injustice happens. Let's challenge that right now. Consider this quote from Jesus Christ. The shepherd protects the sheep. To defend the vulnerable is righteous. Both Jesus and the warrior Saint Joan of Arc made it very clear that true love never abandons the innocent. A good heart doesn't just stand by emptily while harm is happening. Sometimes love literally has to ride into danger. Just because you aren't boasting doesn't mean you lack courage. But the big question is, how do we do that without becoming the very monster we're trying to fight? Legendary swordsman Miyamoto Musashi captures it absolutely perfectly. He says, strike only when striking is required, stop when the purpose is complete. See, the spirit holding the sword is what determines the nature of the act. You can fiercely defend the innocent with zero unnecessary hatred, no vanity, and no need to prove yourself. Gentleness isn't passivity at all. Actually, it's strength placed under control. So it's absolutely crucial to cleanly separate protection from revenge. When we look at deep insights from Viktor Frankl and Martin Luther King Jr., they show us that righteous protection is directed toward a value and it serves life. Revenge, though, revenge is just directed toward the offender's suffering and humiliation. Like MLK taught, we don't fight injustice to just swap out one hatred for another. We do it to call society back to its own conscience. True justice interrupts the cycle without worshiping the wound of revenge. Now let's look at societal structures in Section 4, Escaping Fear-Based Religion. Did religion teach us to remember God or to fear him? We have to ask ourselves, have historical systems actually brought humanity closer to divine love? Or have they just kept us trembling outside the door, constantly managing a threat? The medieval mystic Meister Eckhart contrasted these two approaches beautifully. He explained that the religion of the soul brings a person inward, into silence, humility, and union. But the religion of fear? That keeps the soul trembling on the outside, totally obsessed with managing a threat. Fear-based teachings interrupt our soul's growth. They take beautiful scripture and turn it into a prison, painting the divine as some tyrant we have to flatter and appease, rather than a presence we should simply experience and love.
I love how the Persian poet Rumi beautifully puts it. If a person fears God more than they love God, they have not yet met the friend. Both Rumi and the mystical teacher Neville Goddard remind us that true spirituality is not about panicked obedience. It's definitely not about the threat of eternal damnation. It's an inward awakening. A person enters hell whenever they live from fear and separation, and they enter heaven the moment they awaken to their true identity in love.
All right, Section 5, Mysticism as a Distraction. Are angels, aliens, and higher heavens truth, or just an escape? So often we look up, right? We're eagerly seeking out hidden worlds, our star origins, spirit guides, the whole shebang. But what is the actual practical purpose of seeking out all these esoteric realms? I absolutely love this reality check from Dolores Cannon. She says, the stars may tell you where you came from. Love tells you why you are here. Both Cannon and Darius J. Wright emphasize that exploring cosmic portals or having visions of seraphim is completely useless if it doesn't bring you back to everyday acts of compassion. If an experience just makes you sit around waiting for someone else to save you, well, that isn't freedom.
So how do we stay grounded? Mystic Edgar Cayce and researcher Jacques Vallée offer some highly practical tests for any mystical experience or spiritual wonder. You just need to ask yourself a few things. Does it bring patience? Does it inspire truthfulness? Does it encourage service? And does it increase daily love? Because honestly, if it doesn't do those things, that hidden knowledge is just inflating your ego. It becomes spiritual entertainment and distraction, rather than genuine soul growth.
And that brings us to our final part, Section 6, How to Live Now, bringing the inward journey back to the present moment. Right now, I want to ask you directly, where are you hiding behind fear in your own daily life? Where are you choosing the illusion of control over the vulnerability of surrender? Because the core thesis of this entire journey, the whole explainer, comes down to this. The deepest pain after death is the love we withheld. It's a really profound, grounding realization. The afterlife might not be waiting to judge us later. The life review has actually already begun. Every conversation you have is part of it. Every time we protect the innocent without hatred, every time we tell the truth without cruelty, and love without demanding control, we are writing a different ending, right here, right now. Which leaves us with this haunting, yet incredibly inspiring final question. Death may eventually reveal the love we withheld, but life gives us the chance to stop withholding it right now. So what will you do with your love today? Think about that as you go about your day. Thank you so much for taking this deep, structured journey with me to uncover these truths. Keep learning, keep reflecting, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.